Right, now, so we're going to talk about some wrist rehab now. Wrists are probably the most common upper limb injury in the freestyle snowboarding world, and it's really common in beginners.
Super common in beginners.
Yeah.
What happens when you're learning to snowboard, you catch an edge and it throws you to the ground. And beginners put their arms out, and what happens if you put your arm out behind you and your hand reaches the snow, it just boom, snaps a little bone in your wrist somewhere. I've done it when I was a kid. A couple times. Have you done it?
Yeah, I haven't done it, which has been lucky. I got told really early how to fall, so I've been lucky.
How do you fall? Yeah, that's one way. And I know another way to fall is, and this is something that I teach people, is like put your hand up like that right now, and you feel the pressure. Mm-hmm. Now put your hand in a fist, and just like punch me. Just feel how much stronger your whole wrist is.
Absolutely.
So I tell people, if you're going to take a fall and your arm's going to go down, just try to keep your fist clenched. So like if you're coming down, you can just kind of slide it into the snow.
Absolutely.
And that just keeps so much more tension around those muscles.
Yeah, definitely. So with beginners, we do see this a lot in the snowboarding community. And then with rehab, people do have a lot of stiffness when they're trying to get back on snow. So we can go through some exercises today to help loosen your wrist off and get you back snowboarding. So a really easy one to start off with is just on your hands and knees. So if we get into this position here.
So this would be for someone who has had a wrist injury, how to rehab it to get it back to normal?
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. So it could be a wrist fracture or just a wrist sprain, but if you have wrist stiffness, this can be a good one to work through. So with your hands flat on the ground here, elbows straight, we just want to shift the body weight and shift it over your wrist, just going into that point of stiffness, leaning into it a bit and backing off. So shouldn't feel too much pain with this, but if you can get to a point where your stiffness is restricting, that's a good place to work into and then back off.
Yep. No, I haven't had a wrist injury in a long time, but I definitely can feel a lot of stiff tension through the wrist still.
Absolutely. And yeah, this is a good stretch for anybody that wants to mobilize their wrist a little bit more, even if you don't have a fracture. Now to get a little bit more out of this stretch, you can actually add a band in. So if we use this band and slip it over your wrist just there.
This would be the injured wrist?
This would be the injured wrist, yeah. Okay. And get some tension in the band. What the band's going to do is just pull back on your wrist and allow for a little bit more range.
Just do the same thing, kind of pulse back and forth?
Just pulse back and forward and just lean into it, and the band's going to pull backwards on the wrist and just help you get a little bit more range. So if you did have a fracture and you're struggling to get range, this can be a good addition to this stretch.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome. So the next stretch we can do is a little bit more aggressive. So we're going to put the wrist in the opposite direction and keep the elbow straight here. Now for a lot of people that may be that may be enough just being in that position, but if not, what you can do is you can rock backwards this time and just trying to keep your wrist flat on the ground there.
Tons of pressure on my wrists.
That's it. So this one can be a little bit painful for some. So if you want to do a slightly easier version, you can just go with one hand, elbow straight, and just pulse backward on that hand. So this would be if you had a fracture.
Yep, that one's much easier. Right on. And then what do you reckon, kind of like 20 or so repetitions of each exercise?
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
Yep.
And if you need a little bit more, you can definitely go for a few more reps.
And then if you did that over kind of like a week to a month or something, you think you'd get a lot more range in an injured wrist?
Absolutely. If you're consistent with it, that'll be a great way to improve your range, especially after a fracture.
Right on.
Cool.
Good. Thank you.
No problems.